What is different is that the whole room is just vibrating with love, this otherworldly love that is like thousands times stronger than any love I have ever experienced in my life.
Hello, everybody. A warm welcome to Wisdom from North. I'm Jannike, a spiritual investigator, and today you're going to meet Eva Andrea. Ever since Eva had a direct meeting with divine love and was initiated 10 years ago, she has surrendered to serving love. In her two spiritual novels, she takes us through a wondrous journey that's really raw through darkness and light. And she's a sought after magical writer, mentor, speaker, and teacher. She is also one of our masterclass teachers in Wisdom from North membership, where she's teaching the beautiful class how to connect with your soul and source through writing. Now, we're going to meet Eva very soon, but I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before and click the bell, because then you get notifications of my new videos. Now, join me in exploring Eva Andrea's perspectives. Hello, Eva. How are you today? And welcome back.
Thank you, Jannike. Oh, I am so moved by your introduction and your loving words, and I'm so happy to connect with you again.
It's so lovely to have you here on the show again. I've interviewed you many times, and you also have two masterclasses in my membership because I feel you have so much deep wisdom and knowledge to share. And like I just told you, it seems like your work is ever evolving, and it is the writing that you're most passionate about these days, you told me. However, before we go into magical writing and how we perhaps can connect ourselves to writing or to our soul through writing, I would love to hear a little bit about your connection to the divine, because I know that it seems like you've had a very direct experience with the divine, which I assume many are thinking, oh, I wish it was me, right? And maybe we can go into that later on. But I would love to hear, 10 years ago, you had a direct meeting with divine love. What is divine love and what happened?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's quite a moment that is like a before and after moment, 10 years ago. And just to give you a short little backstory, I grew up in a very kind of connected way because I grew up in a spiritual community, Christian community. And it was a natural thing to have this connection with the divine, since I was a little girl and I saw angels and everything. So that part was kind of natural. But this particular night, I have an experience that totally rocks my whole world and my whole belief system and everything. So in this week, I have just received a letter from, the bank that we have to leave the house. We are broke. We have 4 little children, and it's a big crisis, And this night I have a nightmare, and I'm almost screaming in my dreams because this is so vulnerable and, so scary. And as I'm in this dream of black shadows and it's like really scary, it's like I can only explain it like I am drawn up to sit in my bed by something bigger than myself. And I am so awake, more awake than I have ever been. This feeling of being totally alert and awake. And what is different is that the whole room is just vibrating with love, this otherworldly love that is like thousands times stronger than any love I have ever experienced in my life. And it wraps around me and the whole room, my little baby that is in my bed, and I have just been breastfeeding, my man who's sleeping, and together with this vibration of love, there's a sound in the room, very loud and very powerful. And it's like, it feels like one tone that holds all the music in the whole world. That's how I can describe it. It's very beautiful and this loving vibration, and it's like one sound that holds all music. That's how I can best describe it. And then there's also a voice in the room, a warm voice that gives me a message. That is a bit hard to explain, but to my heart, it means you are loved, and there's a loving reason to what is happening. And as I sit there in this embrace, it feels like the tears are, of course, just dripping on my nightgown, and I don't know how long I sit there. You know, it feels like it was for an eternity, and maybe it's just a few minutes, I don't know. And what I feel when I sit there is that everything about me is loved. And there's nothing that is not held by this love. There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing wrong with me. And, you know, I have grown up with this picture of a God that is also very strict and fear for sins and stuff like that, you know. So for me, it's like everything is shifting in this moment. And as the experience kind of fades out, I know I'll never be the same again, you know, and it starts a whole earthquake in my beliefs about who is God, who am I, where do I belong in the world. And it's a deep process that also leads me to leave this community and start a whole new life over the coming years. And that's what my novels, the first of my, this one actually is about, that journey. So, yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. That sounded amazing. And that book that you're referring to, it's called And I Awakened. And just for people who don't know you, you left a religious community and found a more true spirituality for you. And I'm curious about, you said I was never the same, because I've had some spiritual experiences. When I think about them now, I sort of feel that, okay, I remember them. I remember also a feeling of a lot of love and was out of my body, experienced this tremendous love. But when I came back to myself, I was sort of myself again, my old self. It was more like an experience that I had. It did something with my perspective, that I was assured that, okay, I am love and everybody else is also loved. But it didn't shift me inside like I feel it shifted you. So do you feel like it wasn't just an experience, it was sort of an up leveling of your energy somehow, that something happened with you as well?
Yes, I think so, because I'll not say that it took away my fears, or because I had to go through meeting all my shadows and all my fears and everything that was in my body, you know, kind of stored from my upbringing and my patterns. So it's not like it totally shifted everything like that, but I think there was an activation of, I feel like there was an activation also of my gifts. Because even if I had talked with the angels when I was a little girl, it had kind of shut down. And there was something that just blew open. So I started, you know, receiving letters from the Christ consciousness. I started having all these visits of my angels, everything. It was kind of my crown. I think my crown chakra just opened. And that's maybe the biggest shift. And that guided me. But I had to do my inner work, you know, I had to go through the dark nights of the soul and all of that kind of deep inner work. So yeah, you can't bypass that, I think. But maybe you can compare it a little bit to a near-death experience also, how that can really shift something for people, you know?
I was just thinking about it, Eva. When you told the story, like, this is what I hear in near death experiences. However, you've had it without having a near death. And that is what amazes me all the time, that the spiritual realm sort of can come in to our lives in so many different ways. And it feels like everybody who has these experiences, because not everybody has spiritual experiences in that way that we really become aware that, oh, there is really more. But I find that everybody has unique experiences. There's very seldom like a similar experience. There's also sort of a tweak. It seems like it's very, very tailored to the individual soul.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that perspective and insight. Yes. And I feel, you know, an experience like this, it was grace, you know, it was a gift, it was grace. I didn't ask for it, you know, it was a gift, and maybe it was because I needed it for my soul's purpose and journey to have that kind of activation that happened there. But it's not about what we deserve or not deserve. It's about what is our path, and we have different paths. And in my perspective, I deeply honor the souls that walk this path of doing the inner work and, you know, aligning with your soul energy and doing all the shadow work, everything, without having these esoteric experiences, because in a way it's easier when you have had those experiences, but it takes even more faith or kind of trust to walk your path without having those big openings, right? So I totally honor every soul's path, and I see the strength of that also.
I love that you mentioned that, because that was another question in my head, because a lot of people might be feeling, oh, you deserved it and not me, and I'm working so hard with myself. So I love that you share that. And I'm also thinking that it might be even in your soul contract that you were supposed to have this experience. Who knows, you know, like you're saying, we have different paths, different things to learn. I would love also to hear a little bit about your angel experiences, because you said that ever since I was a child, I've communicated with angels, and I get always very curious about, how do you experience angels? Would you say that you saw them? Is there more of a feeling? And what are angels to you, or from your experience, what are they? So many questions here, but just tell us about the experience with angels as a young girl.
Yes, you know, I clearly remember the first time I saw my angel, my guardian angel. I think I must have been 6 years old, and I was waking up in my bed on I think it was a Sunday morning, and just waking up by feeling something is different. I hear the voices of my parents making the breakfast in the kitchen. I hear the plates, you know, but there's something in the room that feels different. And I sit up, and then I see it. This little bright light of a being on the same size as myself. And I think, P.S., I think that is not to scare me, you know, it's the same size as me, little, and a very joyful energy to it. It's kind of a playful energy, and it sits on my writing desk, and there's no, you know, there's no windows, or this is truly a bright light sitting on my desk. And it feels very friendly, and I feel very safe. So since I'm a little girl, you know, I go out of my bed to go and touch it. I want to touch this beautiful thing, and then it disappears. Then I go back to my bed, and there it is again. And I go out again. I want to touch it. And it happens 3 times. And then I stay in my bed, and I start communicating, and I say, are you my angel? And I get this instant yes answer. Am I not supposed to touch you? no. And then I sit there a while, and there's like this dialogue kind of, and it happens. I cannot explain how the words, how I get the answers, but I feel the answers. And I ask, is it you that always takes care of me? Because I've heard about angels in the Sunday school and stuff. Yes, and I feel very safe, and I hardly want to leave the room when they start singing for the breakfast, and it's time to go and eat, and I'm going to Sunday school. So I get out in the kitchen and I tell my parents, I think I just met my angel. And you know, because it's a natural thing, it's like, okay, that's cool. You know, it's not no big deal. It's very natural. So yeah, that was my first meeting, and then I more sensed it in different situations as a girl. I never saw it as visually strong when I was little, but later in my journey, you know, later on, as I share in the blue book here, especially when I actually let go of everything and moved to Spain with my little family and let go of everything else just to be true to my inner truth. There's a deep sorrow that I'm going through, and I'm feeling like I'm in this dark night of the soul of totally letting go of everything. But it's necessary. And in those nights, I often woke up by seeing in my room a very tall blue being standing by my bed. And it was my angel, but now in another size, you know. Now it was tall and blue, and I got his name, and it was Isaac. And he was sometimes sitting with his hand on my heart, just healing me. And it was very, very kind of strongly visual also in the room. So yes, the angels are not, for me, it's not just an idea, or they are real. And it's not always that I see them now. They kind of choose. I feel they kind of choose how to show themselves to us. In my experience, I cannot force to see an angel, but if I need to see it, I will see it. And if I just need to feel it as the soft, gentle presence in the room or around me, I just get it like that. And you know, I'm not schooled in these things. This is purely intuitive, or kind of, this is purely direct experiences, and not because I've studied it. I'm not good at angels, for example. Not good at that, you know. So this is not theoretical. This is a direct experience I have with them, right? So that's my experience. And yeah, thank you for asking. It's actually beautiful to share about that.
I get very touched. I'm noticing I get like warm in my body when you speak about this. This is really like ringing, like resonating with me. And maybe it is sort of a remembrance, because who knows if a lot of us have had these experiences when we were young, but we do not remember. Who knows, right?
I think so. And I'll also say, I have been shown that we all have angels. I've seen my children's angels. They have been shown to me, you know, physically. I've seen sometimes one, sometimes two. My boy, who had a quite wild young kid, he had two, and I was quite comforted by that. He needed some extra backup, right? So I'm sure that we all have our angels around us all the time. And sometimes we get more of them when we need it for healing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by your journey, Eva, and your life, like how you were born into this religious community and you left it, and you've had all these direct experiences, esoteric experiences, and then you go through a dark night of the soul where you feel totally disconnected. And I find that so interesting, having that direct experience. Then sort of you go all over to the other side being totally disconnected. Like, to me, how is that even possible? It seems like you were going to do some really deep soul work, which it seems like have a connection to what you're doing today, going so deep in soul writing, which seems to be your purpose. So take us a little bit back to that dark night of the soul, like how that felt to all of a sudden lose that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine? It's like after these big openings, you know, big activation and openings and receiving, to suddenly be kind of thrown into this feeling of, yes, being disconnected and almost feeling sometimes abandoned, you know, by your source, as you can feel when you go through a transformation as this was, you know. And you can feel very confused, you can feel very alone, you can feel uncertainty, that this cloud of unknowing that I sometimes talk about, you know. And the thing is, I didn't know back then that it was a totally natural way of the path, part of the path, right? And I have experienced that in several rounds, you know, afterwards, that there are times where we open up and we receive a lot of light, and then there comes a time with darkness, and the darkness is actually protecting us while we are kind of upgrading and things are happening, you know, we are ascending or whatever we want to call it. But there's a natural and very loving darkness. It doesn't feel loving, but it's actually protecting us while we are under upgrade. And I know it not just from my own journey, but I think all really deep devoted souls that I talk to have had these experiences. It's part of the journey, but we don't talk about it so much as we maybe should, you know.
That is so interesting that you're saying the darkness is protecting us, because it definitely doesn't feel like it. Like we're protected when we're in darkness. And this is something different than depression and sadness, right?
Exactly. And you know, just to visual today, the second book that we have also talked about in the interview is all about that. It's about the dark night of the soul and how to find the way through the dark night of the soul. And I share my own experiences with that here, and also go to Avila to meet this Catholic mystic that wrote the book, The Dark Night of the Soul, John of the Cross, and his soul friend, Teresa. So I have to go very deep into the darkness as well as the light, because it's wholeness. It's part of the journey, right?
Yeah. And then today, it seems like you are just sharing so much love, and you're really at home with yourself, and you seem so balanced and living your truth. And I know how important it is for you to live your truth, and you're helping others write and connect, not just authors, but also like our members in the membership, you're teaching them how to connect with their soul through writing. So why are you so passionate about writing?
Wow. You know, it's always been like that. Since I was little, I loved writing. And I had like those 40 pen pals at the same time. I didn't know it was because I had a gift or like a longing to write. And I always journaled throughout the journey. I always journaled so many mountains of notebooks. But I didn't realize that I was a writer before like 10 years ago. So, and it suddenly just came out of my pen one day when I was writing, I am a writer. And the words were just staring at me. They came from my soul, I think, but I hadn't realized I'm a writer. It's so funny, right? And in that same week, my first book was conceived, and now it's like 6 books later, you know, and now helping so many writers all over the world. Because so did I answer your question? Why am I so passionate? I think it's just part of my soul path to share wisdom through writing, and to share my soul's purpose through writing, and helping others to do the same. Not that it's the path for everybody, but I know, I have a feeling that we all have at least one book in our soul. That's my little, that's my
Wow. All of
yeah,
us?
yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
wow.
We all have a story to tell in my perspective, you know, we all have a story to tell, but maybe we don't value our story. Maybe we don't believe we have a voice and a story worth telling. And I love to see the light in people's eyes when you realize that you really have a story to tell, right?
How encouraging, Eva, to say that we all have a book to share. Because I remember when I was little, I said once, I would love to write a book. And this adult say, but you're not, you know, you need to be somebody in order to write a book. You can't just write a book. And I was like, okay. So
Yeah.
I love what you said that. And I
Mm.
want to share something, a thought I had. It might be relevant or not, but uh, in relation to all these different syndromes that we might have, because you're saying everybody has a book in them, so that means that everybody is unique. Of course we know that, but often when it comes to like syndromes and diseases and things we're struggling with, okay, you have this diagnosis and I have that diagnosis, but then there's the normal people. And that's why we have all these different diagnoses, because that is separate from the normal people who are just normal. And what I thought about is that nobody's normal. Everybody has, it was just a thought. What if everybody has a diagnosis of some kind, some mental, some psychological diagnosis? Like I have several, like I've been having anxiety, depression, mood swings. I think we all have some sort of diagnosis that exists in the world, which means that nobody's normal. And it's normal to have a diagnosis, and we all have a book in us.
Yes, baby, I love it. It's beautiful. And you know, Janneke, this is like something about, I talked to a beautiful poet recently, Helena Goldstein from Denmark. And she said, because I asked her, I was interviewing her about poetry, and she had such a beautiful picture. She said, it's like in the moment, we are all like a prism, a unique prism. And the way the light hits us, that's what makes the poetry, you know? And something like that, she said. And I love that picture of if we can see ourselves as this beautiful, unique prism, like a diamond with its very unique shape. We are all instruments for love to flow through us. And that's why what you have to share in your book will be something that no one else can write. No one else can share it in the way you can. And there's someone out there that longs to hear it from you, and that can only hear it through you, in my experience.
Yeah.
Even if there's like 1,000 books about mindfulness, well, maybe they need to hear it through your story to really, really get it, you know?
I love that. And I so agree. Even though we can think, oh, but this has been written about before. Well, not through you. And let's just throw out that word normal, because nobody's normal. We're all
Exactly.
unique.
Yeah, and we're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And you also speak about magical writing, and you use the word magical a lot. So how can we listen to the magic and sort of get that down on paper?
Yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite questions, Yannick. And it actually really beautifully connects to what we have talked about today about love. Because sometimes when people hear me talk about magical writing, they think think about that it's about writing fairy tales or magical things. But no, it's the process that is magical, right? And it is actually to allow yourself to listen to when your heart opens, and just a little way to get started to connect with your soul when it comes to writing is try to, you know, if you listen to this, try today to be aware, when is your heart doing that thing, when the heart opens, you know? It can be a little moment of beauty in nature. It can be when you meet your child's eyes, or something happens that opens your heart and connects you with the love that you are, that's where you meet your soul. And try to write on that experience, just a little. What is stirring here? Maybe there will be a little poem coming out. Maybe there will be a memory, because that moment reminded you of your childhood, and it brings you right back to your soul's library, as I also talk about, where there's so many beautiful stories, and just see where it takes you. And it's something about actually allowing ourselves to, I think we allow the magic in by becoming like little children again. And the master teacher Jesus, who said, unless you change and become like little children, you cannot enter the kingdom. I think that is the truth of, we need to become like little children to enter the kingdom of the magic, also. And like Alice in Wonderland, she had to become small to pass through to the Wonderland. So there's something about that allowing that wonder to hit us, and then try to write on that and see where it takes you. It will be very beautiful.
Yeah, the word that comes forward for me is innocence.
Yes.
This innocence and this natural state that we're in when we're born, this joyful state. And then, life happens and we accumulate all this stuff and belief systems and all that. And I think that is the essence, coming to that pureness again, where something new comes. And would you say that it's almost like channeling, or is that something else?
It's interesting. I was just thinking about channeling today as I was sitting in the sun. I was like, yeah, channeling is like, there's a spectrum of inspired writing. And here you have the total pure channeling. And here you have inspired writing, inspired from your soul, inspired from your passion, So for me, it's like, it's a spectrum, right? And so it's kind of the same thing, but it depends what you're channeling. Are you channeling from your soul, or are you channeling from beings and other things? But it's an opening to listen. But you can also use your head. So it's not that, it's not that this is only for people who want to write spiritual books. It can also be channeling from your imagination, right? Yeah, that I have a lot more about all of this in the magic box that we also have talked about sometimes, the program I made about all of this, because this is a big topic, right?
So, Eva, for those who would love some guidance when it comes to using writing to connect deeper with your source and soul that you're teaching in the masterclass, can you share a little bit about like what you're teaching there and what people can sort of receive from this masterclass in the membership?
Yes. I was delighted when you asked me to make a masterclass about how to connect with your soul through writing in the masterclass. And it was a beautiful process to kind of zoom in on what is my best practices in a way. How can I, give you the best in 1 hour? And in the masterclass, I share the 3 most opening questions to write on, and how to do it. And I also share some extras, how you can write about your soul journey as hero's journey. And then I take you into this magical meditation where I take you into your soul's library, where you access all your stored memories in your soul from this life, and maybe also from past lives or even future lives, if you believe in that. And you pick a feeling you want to experience, and then you are taken to what you need to remember. And many have the most magical and also sometimes esoterical experiences doing this meditation. I just received it as a channeled meditation to make, and I didn't actually know exactly what it would do before I started doing it. And then I started getting these, because I thought it was only to access your memories in this life. And suddenly I started hearing all these stories about where people had been thrown back into beautiful experiences from the past or in the future even. So I'm kind of also exploring what this is, you know, as I go. So yeah, it's a beautiful experience you also get in the masterclass, and I'd love to hear how you experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's coming in March 2022 in Wisdom from North membership. And for everybody who feels like this is for you, then you're so welcome to join us in the membership. And you also get access to 30 plus other masterclasses with other amazing teachers that I have handpicked for you from all my interviews on YouTube. And I'll leave a link below here as well under the video. I wanted to ask you, maybe sort of a last question here, but you mentioned that you have been writing or connecting with Christ consciousness as well. And I'm curious about that. I've been Christian, brought up in the Christian tradition, but I don't feel that I relate to Christianity anymore. But Christ consciousness, I feel, is something more that appeals to me somehow. And I feel I don't know what it is, but I feel it's a really powerful consciousness being or an energy that is very healing. Could you sort of explain, I know it's probably impossible, but what Christ consciousness is for you?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, Janneke. I experience the Christ consciousness as the most unconditionally loving energy in the universe. To me, in all the meetings I've had with different beings, and it's like the Christ consciousness is just, that's the master energy, if you can say it like that. It's I have not experienced anything stronger than meeting the Christ consciousness, and it is this unconditional love, a very universal love. It's maybe a fluid border between that and the God consciousness. You know, to me, it's kind of the same thing. It's a bit hard to distinguish also. But when you say there is something about the Christ consciousness that is so universal, and I think that when we think about Jesus and Christ, you know, also because I had a very strong relation to the figure Jesus as I grew up. And I think that's why I immediately recognized when it was the Christ consciousness that came to me, because I had a feeling of the energy from before. But this way it came to me was much bigger than the Jesus that I had known with the dogmas and the kind of the limited kind of version of Jesus that I was presented for. Yeah.
So are you saying that it's not Jesus, it's a sort of an expanded, but it is connected to Jesus?
Yeah, it is. I think Jesus was the embodiment of the Christ consciousness. He was maybe one of those who have embodied it in the most full way. That's maybe a way to understand it, and have lived the Christ consciousness on earth, you know. So in that way they are connected. But yeah, and as I say, it's not that I'm super theoretical about it, but I just know and honor that energy. And yes, it's a beautiful, I have always had and will always have a deep connection to that. That is my go-to energy when there's something, you know, that's like, I have a deep connection with both the Christ consciousness and the Magdalene energy. Those two are like, in a way, for me, the embodiment of the love and also of the feminine wisdom when we talk Magdalene, right? But that's a whole other story.
I know. Maybe we'll do an interview about that one day. Was the Christ consciousness, was that the direct experience with love you've had? Would you say that that was the energy you met, or was that something different?
I don't know, I don't know, but Christ consciousness was definitely there. But I feel maybe there was something more also.
So interesting how you are able to sort of separate them, that is that and that is that.
Yeah, it's like a little bit like tuning in on a radio. I feel it's like, and so it's something that comes also maybe with practice and experience. I don't know, but it's all very intuitive also. So sometimes I also I don't feel that I have all the answers, honestly, you know, but I can share my experiences, and I can live the love as good as I can, you know. That's my job.
And then I just have to ask, would you say that Christ consciousness is sort of a masculine energy? And then we have the Mary Magdalene, which is a feminine energy. Would you say that they are sort of, I don't know,
Yeah, they complement. There's something that for me complements a very beautiful divine unity somehow. And I think that Jesus was embodying the Christ consciousness, while Magdalene was embodying the Sophia wisdom, the divine feminine, and together they could do magic, you know. So there's something very deep and mystical in that union, and in that those two energies, and how they dance.
Fascinating. Let's do another interview on that one day, Eva.
I'd love to. Yeah.
But for now, thank you so much, and all the best with your wonderful, wonderful work. And thank you for showing up today here on YouTube, and also for making your wonderful masterclass in Wisdom from North membership.
It's an honor, Janneke. Thank you for your work, and thank you for the light that you are in the world. I love you, and I'm so grateful to talk to you always.
And thank you for watching, everybody. Much light from Spain and Norway. Bye-bye.